Awesome. Welcome everybody to the Cool. Welcome everybody to the October 27th Identifying Security Threats Working Group. We're going to be chatting about a bunch of different things, but before we do that, number one, we are recording, and number two, would anybody, and I'm sorry, please forgive me in advance if you were here last time and I'm forgetting, but Krishna, did you want to introduce yourself or tell me that you were here last time, and I'll apologize.
Yeah, I first time I'm joining.
Okay.
This is Krishna. My name is Krishna Kumar. I'm from, thanks Mike for sending the invite. I'm from Accenture. It's first time I'm joining. So I was going through the security foundations, different work groups. So I saw a tooling work groups and this work group. So I thought, yeah, let me check out this work group, which I think you are probably going to talk about the vulnerabilities and how to resolve all those things, right? So in Accenture currently, I am doing a cloud consulting, mainly Google Cloud, but I do work some part with the Azure and AWS too, kind of a multi-cloud. I'm in dealing with Google Kubernetes engine, Anthos and AKS and EKS, that world. I am also a CNCF ambassador. So I am with CNCF for the last 4 or 5 years. Prior to this company, I was working for other company where we contributed something to CNCF like KubeEdge, an edge platform. So my team was working. Volcano, that was a big data framework for containers. That also we contributed. Both are in an incubation stage, I believe, in CNCF at this point. Yeah, I have CKAD certification, some Google certification, things like that. So my main purpose to join this group was to see, what container vulnerabilities or tooling you guys are working on, how remediation is happening. And I'm also involved with one group called Cloud Computing Innovation Council of India. It's a group in India where they're trying to build a test framework for multi-cloud. So there is a security work group which I am member of. So we were looking into all the container level security and see what are the frameworks coming into market and what are the new things happening. So I thought I will join here and see what I can learn and if possible, what I can contribute also. Thanks for the invite.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for being here.
My apologies. I didn't catch the name of our new guest.
My name is Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. I'm from Kumar, last name Kumar. I'm from Accenture at this point.
From where? Accenture?
Seattle right now.
Welcome, Krishna.
Yeah, welcome.
Awesome. Since well, you know what? Let's do super quick round of intros for everybody else, so Krishna can meet everybody else. And we have one more. So hi everybody, I'm Mike Scavetta. I run an open source security team at Microsoft. I've been leading this work group since the beginning of time, and pushing for and advocating this Alpha Omega project, which there are links here, and we can talk more about that later.
Yeah, Michael, I suggest you identify the next person because otherwise we don't know who's
Good idea.
Supposed to be next.
David.
Okay, so David A. Wheeler, I work at the Linux Foundation. My official title is Director of Open Source Supply Chain Security, but that doesn't mean I can solve all problems all myself. It really means that I show up in groups like this and try to help various folks work on this challenge. Let's see here, Amir.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amir Montazeri. I'm a managing director for OSTIF, the Open Source Technology Improvement Fund. We're an independent nonprofit that specializes in facilitating security engagements for critical open source projects, doing projects to improve their security posture. Dylan.
Hey guys, my name is Dylan Bala. I am a software engineer at Microsoft, focused obviously in the security space. I've been in this group for I don't know. COVID just made me lose track of time, but for a while, not nearly as long as Mike, maybe like a year or so. And yeah, I'm really kind of excited and involved in the open source space and like a lot of the potential that there is to expand upon things. And yeah, very happy to be here.
Tag someone.
You got a name?
Oh, sorry. Matt, do you want to go next? I think Matt's here, right?
Yeah, he is. Matt,
I'm here, but multitasking. Sorry.
No worries.
So I'm sorry. What's the context? I was talking about.
who are you? Very briefly.
Quick intro.
Quick intro.
That's what I was going to answer, but I wanted to be sure. So context here is that part of my roof blew off last night in a storm. I'm trying to talk to the insurance company. So sorry.
Oh,
Dude, take care of the important stuff. We'll be here. It's not good.
Matt Rukowski, IBM. I work in the open source team in cloud platform, and I'm leading a cross team effort between our CIO office and our CISO team to work on a security and compliance pipeline that incorporates a lot of the things from OSSF.
Sergio?
Well, I'm Sergio, and currently I'm an independent, but I'm planning to be ambassador for the Academy Software Foundation. And previously, I was a software engineer at Arena World, and I contributed to the Brave browser.
Subinoy? If that's pronouncing your name right, and if not, I'm sorry.
Yeah, hi Michael. So I am new to open source community. So I'm working in Cognizant Technology Solutions, and I'm from India. So I'm I want to get involved and contribute to open source projects.
Awesome. Welcome. And then I think just David. Not just David, but David.
I already spoke.
No, other David.
Other David. Oh, there's another one.
We have a plethora of Davids now.
Yeah, David Alcantar here. I'm a program manager for the open source security team at Microsoft. Haven't attended many of these meetings, so looking forward to listening to all of you today.
Awesome. Okay, so we have an agenda. So we did the first part. Second part, so as most of you know, but some of you I'm sure don't, there's a project.
Mike, one quick, I can see Eric as a guest. I don't know, admit all is popping up.
Really? I don't have that. It hasn't popped up for me. Is it shown for anybody else I mean, feel free to admit, if you see an admit thing, just hit yes.
Yeah, I just tried it failed, so I thought you may be able to do it.
It didn't show up for me.
I see. Okay.
If I see it again,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, maybe. Cool. So Alpha Omega is a project that it is in its infancy and kind of, it's been pitched a bunch of times. Oh, there we go. Hello, Luigi.
Hi, sorry, I am late because crazy day. Sorry.
It's all good. No worries. I'll add security YAML at the end if you want to give an update. But so Alpha Omega, there's a proposal here. If you haven't seen the link, I encourage you to kind of peruse that over. There's an operating plan, which is what specifically do we plan to do in the year 2022. This is all pre-announced. We were gonna, I think we're gonna do a blog article, I think maybe on either November 8th as part of the town hall or shortly thereafter, something like that. It's not super secret. It's just we haven't talked about it in kind of a public forum yet.
I am so happy. So Alpha Omega can start. Huh?
I know, right? We're so close. We're just like, give me the money.
Okay.
but the money.
I am so happy.
The money is there. So although
I don't have the money in my hands though.
No. I got that. But
no, right.
But this is much more than the hey, can we get approval?
Yes, absolutely, yes, yep. Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't be flippant about where it's actually.
Thank you,
but yeah,
Mike. Thank you all.
so yeah, no, so we're going to present for formal approval to the governing board on the 5th, and if that, assuming that goes well, and what we're going to be presenting is this basically a version of this operating plan. So I don't want to, because we could spend the rest of the time just talking, like deep diving on this. I can give a quick overview, or David, if you wanted to go right to questions that you had, because I want to make sure that we integrate that.
Yeah, I think we have a limited time for a meeting, so I would propose that, if you haven't read it, take a look, and let's focus particularly on issues. I have a couple.
Yeah.
I was intending to write you an email. That didn't happen.
Well, good.
So here we are. It's probably better anyway to have a group discussion. So I'm going to declare that was the plan all along. So, and I would propose other folks, if they have either just issues or concerns about it, raise that as well. Because I mean, if it's good, then it'll just stay and off we go. So.
And sorry, just for everybody, add it to the doc, because that's what I will always be referring back to. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. All right. So why don't we discuss, if we can, any issues, and then we can make at least comments on the doc, and then you can, try. All right. So number one thing is, whenever I see somebody trying to serve multiple bosses, I worry.
Yep.
I've just, I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's almost always a problem. I think really the Alpha Omega, I mean, in a sense, they do a technical reporting to the TAC. They ultimately are responsible to the governing boards for the funding, and for the third part of it's the identifying security. It seems to me that they report to the TAC and the Identifying Security Threats Working Group, but they're ultimately, that lead is ultimately under control of the governing board. Or if not, make it the TAC. But I think having multiple masters is just
I agree.
a problem.
Yep. So the way that, so I'll just open that. And keep in mind, so this draft should be like much larger font than it actually is. But the way that I was, now this is one way I think that we do it, where each of the projects, kind of all the resources, from a reporting and time management and like, hey, my thing broke and I need help, has a dedicated project manager. Project manager, program manager, I don't know, but it's some flavor of PM. Those PMs, but there's one person I think that needs to be responsible for the entire project, and that person is the one that essentially presents back to the TAC and the working group and the governing board, and they kind of manage it as a liaison from the project team to the OpenSSF. Now, this isn't the only way of doing it. The other way of doing it would be to actually have Alpha report to like the critical projects working group lead, and Omega report to a different lead. We could do that too. There's no reason why Alpha Omega need to be tightly bound to having one person looking over both of them.
That said, I think there are enough overlap, and I think from a funding point of view, people are funding Alpha and Omega.
Yes.
So I think we may as well consider them. I actually do think that there's a lot of opportunities. I'm not sure that this person really needs to be full time. And indeed,
no.
I can easily see a single person filling all three roles, depending on how much work.
Yeah.
Because if most of this work actually gets redistributed out to folks underneath, from an org chart perspective, that it may not be requiring that much time.
So the concrete proposal at this point is a technical PM lead thing for as this PM function for 6 months for each of them, so dedicated. With it, after that, as we go through that, we'll realize if we were way off. But I don't think that, number one, it has to be a paid position. It can't be a volunteer thing. For these two on the bottom. This Alpha Omega lead, I'm imagining that's me or someone like me that would kind of oversee the project at a strategic level, but delegate the day-to-day stuff, because as things come up, they need to be dealt with in a 40 hours a week kind of effort. So that's why I think these are important. And if we realize in 3 months that this only takes 12 hours a week, then we combine them after 6 months and we're good. That's at least my take on it. I would rather over-resource this than under-resource this, because if we under-resource it, it's going to fail and we're going to look silly.
Okay, I think I suspect you're over-resourcing, but I also understand why you are.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we actually get the money out to out to actually doing things as opposed to just overseeing it.
Yes, and that's why I think that this chart is important. This is the one for alpha, and granted that some of the numbers here are a little hand wavy, but what trying to keep is to a reasonable overhead. So the way I define overhead here is all of the work, like the actual work product, like the actual engagement and audits and all that stuff is like the bread and butter of it. So that's, I don't know, whatever I'd call that on a balance sheet, but that's the good stuff. And then like the overhead and the office supplies and the TPM, like that's all overhead stuff. We want to keep that low. So 8 to 10% I think is super reasonable for something like this, which is why I don't have a problem spending whatever market rate is for a dedicated TPM, provided we get value out of the rest of it. So that was my thinking.
Right.
I
guess one of the other things is I don't know if those dollars are going to be enough for both doing an audit of the software and then actually going and rolling up the sleeves and fixing things. I guess we'll find out some of that as we go along, but I'm a little skeptical. Basically, I think you're over on the management and under the performance.
That's very possible. Yeah.
I fully acknowledge that you may be right and I may be wrong. we're trying to make our best estimates given the information we have.
Right. And knowing that not every project will need under an assumption that not every project will need the full depth security audit.
Right.
I think because that will be a sizable chunk of whatever the investment is per project. That maybe we borrow from Peter to pay Paul, or whatever the phrase there is. So, and I also have an additional buffer here to be used if we are wrong about any particular project. We can just. You should
always have a buffer.
Yeah.
Every project I've ever run, it didn't matter what it was. Some estimate was wrong, and I needed a buffer.
They don't run on time and on budget every time. Shocked.
Oh, I was on time and on budget because I had a buffer. It's anybody who thinks a project everything will always go right has never run one.
Yep. All right. Okay. So are you good on the multiple boss issue?
Well, I'm good in the sense that you have heard me. I think that you can redraw that to show basically, maybe you report to the governing board for budget and final authority, and you coordinate with the TAC and this working group for technical. You provide information and basically a technical review as it goes along. But I think just describing it and making it appear that you have multiple bosses and they all are equal is just going to be a problem.
Okay.
Somebody has to be able to have, I'm the bigger one here, and the decision has to rest somewhere.
Is are you mostly getting that from the diagram? Because if the diagram is giving that impression, okay, so maybe the diagram is just garbage. Let's say maybe it's diagram.
Yeah, like reports to governing board, and then like dashed lines showing off, report technology
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
they also report to the GB. I mean, but I think of the TAC and I don't and this working group role or whatever working group this is under. I mean, and by the way, we've actually talked about just having Alpha Omega as its own thing. It doesn't have to be under this working group.
Yeah.
But if it is, I think that more of a report back, hey, how are things going? But if it's a tussle between the governing board and any other group, the governing board wins.
I maybe, yeah. I mean, I think part of this, in order for this to be effective, you do need one boss. You need one person on the line that's accountable to deliver the results.
One
And
boss
I don't want
or
to make
one
this designed
group.
by committee. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm okay with an executive reporting to a board. I mean,
I
lots
think
of companies work that way.
Yes.
But what I'm afraid of is I report to a board and this other group and this other group, and they disagree with each other. Now what?
Got
Okay.
it.
I don't want to put a PM in a position where it's not possible to have an answer.
Yes. So, okay, I think that the problem is that I've poorly described the intent. The intent has been for let's just call them the director of the Alpha Omega project to own all decisions and subject to the available budget and in line with the spirit of the project.
I got that, but that person who owns it still needs to report to somebody.
Yes, but
I think that is actually the governing board, and they also report out for technical to the TAC and the working group, so that they can raise they can disagree, they can discuss. If they truly hate it, they can raise it to the governing board, but in the end it's the governing board that makes the final call.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be that way. It could be the TAC, for example, but no matter what, in the end I want the lead to report to a single group, not to three groups. And if they disagree, good Lord help you figuring out what to do next.
So we'll probably have AO report to governor. I think that makes more sense, particularly with the new governing board makeup that's going to be happening soon.
And they're the ones that in the end control the funding. So I mean, and show that you also report to the TAC and working group in terms of technical and so on. And frankly, those end up reporting to the governing board eventually anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. I will figure. I'll make that more obvious and good.
Okay. My other main comment is frankly another decisional thing.
Yep.
You can see my comment there. For Alpha, really actually for Omega also, you can't handle everything. So you have to decide who determine what the projects are. I am guessing, although I'm expecting the lead to have a significant voice, and particular in how it gets executed, I'm expecting the lead to take the lead. But as far as who decides which projects are, I think that should be a small group, not a single individual. And that small group should be informed by quantitative data. And I think we should list some examples of that data. But I think in the end, it needs to be a small group, call it a cabal, call it whatever. But we have to have a way of deciding that doesn't just put it on that burden on a single individual. Because if it's a single individual, no matter what, people are going to complain about that. People will complain about the decision no matter what. But I think it's way more justifiable if you have multiple people, and that may be assigned by the governing board, whatever, but a group.
Yep, I agree completely. I was the intent was never to have one person create the list.
Right. But that's not clearly. In my mind, what's critical for your plan is figuring out who makes the decisions, because you'll never put it on the plan. The plan will have to change anyway. The plan, no matter what you do, is wrong. Making the plan's helpful. Actually executing the plan is unlikely. It will change. So we just really need to focus on who makes the decisions. And then as things change, we know who's going to make the decisions.
Right. Perfect. I think that's fine.
Are you good with adding? And if you want, I can list some examples here, but
that would be great. Yeah. I mean, I think that having it would probably be the lead director, whatever you want to call own the process and delegate out the actual prioritization to either OpenSSF members writ large, or a representative from each working group, or the governing board, or the TAC, or like whoever wants to contribute into that. I think the problem will actually be too few people wanting to actively contribute into that rather than too many. It doesn't matter though, like we'll come up with a list that we all feel equally bad about, and that'll be the best list that we'll be able to do, and then we'll just start at the top and go from there. I don't want to over-engineer out the perfect list, but yeah, definitely not one person.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, so those are my main comments. Does anybody have any other comments about the issues that I raised? I mean, I raised them. That doesn't mean anybody else agrees with me.
I think you brought up some great points, David. We always talked about back in the IT audit days about establishing where the buck stops. So, knowing who, eventually makes that final decision. And yeah, I definitely like the idea of some kind of ongoing curation as well, from both the OpenSSF, the TAC and governing board, and the open source community at large to, at the very least, be able to maybe suggest things or to make their voice heard as well. And I think that kind of community curation at some point in the stage, maybe in the earlier stages of identifying candidate projects, I think would be a good practice.
Cool. Any more comments on that? Because I do have some, well, can come right after this, but it's still related to the operating plan.
Last thing I was going to say, Michael, I'm happy to share with you just some of our experiences with security engagements when it comes to costs and kind of budgeting and things like that. We've been doing it for a number of years now, so we've got some data points that can hopefully help and maybe kind of get a better estimate of what some of these things might cost.
Yep. Yeah, that would be awesome. Do you want to do that offline with me?
Yeah, we can just have a quick discussion about it. Yeah.
Perfect.
I will register, in spite of all my very specific criticisms. I'm excited. I mean, these are specific, comments to improve something.
All feedback is good. The worst feedback is the one you never hear. Okay, so I've given this a lot of thought. So for Alpha, I feel really comfortable. Well, I may feel less comfortable, Amir, after we talk and like budget-wise, in terms of like how much we can get done with how much money. But I feel that the overall approach of basically there's a layer of overhead at the top that makes sure the right things are happening, and then it's basically a money funneling thing to organizations that do the work and then checking to make sure that the right work was done and all that stuff. For Omega, it's a lot less clear because Omega is actually doing, I don't want to minimize and say this the wrong way, but it's doing the technical analysis and it's building the tools and it's doing the triage, and it's not an outsourced service provider setup. And one of the challenges that I have is how to keep a similar low overhead on this. And at the same time, know that we don't actually know what we're building, but we need to start building. So we don't know what it looks like, what it'll look like at the end. So there's a section here which is like the absolute like minimum requirements for Omega for 2022. And it's still for the three pieces that we talked about in the proposal. So there's automated analysis, there's a triage portal of some sort, and there's a response process. And the response process isn't really a technical thing. It's just like how do it's a document really of how do you engage and how do you manage that. Maybe a little bit of like a CRM light thing, so you can track like, hey, I reached out to this person, they never got back, or they did, and it fixes in place and should be ready next month, things like that. you know, and a kind of a website to like show the aggregate like high level results. But the real, I think, not a kicker, the real guts of this is the automated analysis infrastructure and the triage portal. And both of these things are things that are going to need to be built and iterated on significantly over time. So where I think I've landed in my head is that these should be minimum viable, like literally minimum viable projects, whatever, where it has to be functional, but it's not for mass consumption. It doesn't need to be pretty. It doesn't need to be like everything that you want the final thing to be. We want an experimental playground that we can iterate on quickly and come up with something that functionally works. And then as we get closer to solidifying something, we look at it through another lens of how do we make this thing, you know, what does this thing want to be when it grows up? How do we, you know, build this into LFX? How do we, you know, make this the visible and, you know, for more usage and more data sources and kind of everything else. The advantage here is that both of these can be put together for an MVP quickly and cheaply, as at least relative to the full-on the full thing. Since we don't know what we're building, I think that's also fiscally responsible. But I want to get thoughts because I don't want to steer this too much based off of just what I'm thinking. Does this sound like a terrible idea?
I'm definitely in agreement with getting an MVP. I feel like that's the best place to start.
I guess
seems good to me.
Yeah. Is anybody like, so I've thought about like triage portals for a long time. Does something like this exist though? Like there's nothing really off the shelf that kind of does this, right? I mean, there's like, and I know it depends on like, well, what do you mean by this? Like, what?
Yeah, I mean, almost all the tools have some way of doing some kind of triage because you have to. You know, most of them have at least a way to estimate how important the vulnerability is and then sort them by that. That's absolutely a triaging technique.
Yep.
It's
the aggregation one that's.
I mean, there are tools that aggregate, particularly aggregation between multiple tools. That is absolutely a thing. There are multiple tools that do this.
Do you have any? Do you have any off the top of your head? Even just because once I find one, I can find others similar to it. But
yeah, I actually wrote a paper on some of these, but it's been a while. So how's this? Why don't we keep talking, stall, and I'll come back.
Perfect.
This came up before in some discussions. I think it's in beta, but I think Sneak is working on something like that.
Yeah. So
triage is not so easy and common, in my opinion. For example, I mean, if you try to explain what is the triage to a developer, it's not so common that they know this. It is sometimes if they have the right seniority, they want to have it to prioritize the bug, usually bug if they work on product. But still, a triage portal or something that is similar to a triage good approach, I don't think that it is really exists as in. I mean, this is my personal opinion based on my experience, so I don't know if this is so good. But I mean,
I guess what I'm looking
I get
for
with
is this. or something functionally like this, where you're seeing the finding, which could come from multiple tools, and you can see the code and you can navigate around and you can say this one is garbage and nope, this one is good. Kind of the single pane of glass for I'm a security triager that needs to take action on these across multiple projects. And maybe the answer is that they're just most teams have either bought into like basically one big tool, so they use that tool's pane of glass. I don't know. I mean,
I think that's honestly the answer. I think the problem is for a lot of folks is that many of these tools are pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And so
so
there was a study done. Sorry.
I say let's build it and then we can sell it and use that to pay for the rest of the program.
Yeah, there was a study done by NSA. I'm sure some people don't want to hear from them, but okay. But they did some serious studies, and what they found was that the different static analysis tools, at least at the time, had remarkably little overlap. In other words, if you ran two tools, it wasn't that they found the same things. It's that they found it was a significant amount of things where there was no overlap. Yeah. And so their recommendation was, if you really care, use multiple tools. Yeah. And a lot of people took that to heart until they looked at the budget. And Absolutely. Then, oh, wait, if I buy two tools, that's more expensive than one. Yeah, how about that? And so I think there is general agreement that using multiple tools is better, and then you can eliminate the overlap. The problem is for a lot of organizations, if you're not developing open source, a lot of the tools are pretty expensive. Yeah. And so the number of folks who use them. I'm trying to remember. I know one of the aggregators ended in DX, but it was only part of the word. So I'm still trying to find.
Oh, I know which one you mean. That's enough. I can.
Okay. My brain is just off. I even wrote about this thing. I write papers about it. I don't have access to them anymore, but that was in my old job. But
I'll figure it out from there. Yeah, I mean, ideal. Like if there was something off the shelf that we could use, that would be even better. I have a feeling that it's going to be like, well, this doesn't really do what we want, but we'll take it from there. At least we'll have kind of, I think, articulating it as a minimum requirements, and then how do we just make it happen? I think we need to be very let's just roll up our sleeves and do it. For some of this stuff. But yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, and I know DHS funded development of one of them.
Okay. But
again, that's not not quite enough to find it. Ah, wait a minute. Was it Code DX?
Code DX. Yes. Code DX. Cool.
All right. It looks like they got bought up by Synopsys.
Ah. Okay.
So, I mean, this is actually not unusual. Is somebody does something and then it gets bought up by somebody else. Yeah. I hear that's happened before.
Shocking. Okay, we have 15 minutes left. I want to make sure that we get to the other topics. Is there anything else that we wanted to close on for Alpha Omega? Okay, please get any comments you have into the doc as soon as possible. We're going to need to solidify this. I think by the end of, by next Friday we need to present. So have a couple days. But please get any comments in. I will do my best to faithfully, I will respond and I will try to faithfully take to heart everything that you guys say. Yeah. Okay. Next part, security reviews. Amir.
Awesome. Shout out to Dylan for updating the table and making it not static anymore. So it's definitely looking nice. I incorporated it into the main branch of the repo. There's a couple things I've considered. Either it's an overview.md is the Python table.
Nice.
Yeah. So Dylan, do you want to quickly talk about what you did? Just because I don't want to mess it up.
I want a link.
Coming right up.
I'll give you a link.
Give me a link. Okay, carry on.
Oh, that's right. I think Dylan had to drop off halfway because of his standing meeting. But yeah, so it looks like essentially what he did was generated a table that can be essentially generated automatically, not statically. I think it's definitely a great start for kind of giving an overview of all the work that's in the repo. There are some things that I would like to run by the work group to potentially augment this, just to make it a little bit more descriptive. There's a couple fields that I think might, if someone coming from, just the outside who doesn't know anything about the work group or this repo might get confused. So I think what I'm going to do for that is just put it all together in a list of recommendations. And of course, if the work group has any thoughts about this table or just generally making this information more discoverable, please comment on both the notes, or you can contact me directly. But yeah, it's definitely looking like a fantastic start. The only other big update was it looks like someone from Trail of Bits added a couple of new security assessments that they did. And it keeps getting that the Python application build error.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not entirely sure how to debug that. So I thought, if we have a couple of minutes, if we could just figure out what's going on there and
Yep. So right here, the validation. So we can look at validate 109. Sorry, what did it say? It said the str object has no. So reviewer should be a dictionary. It is not. It is a string. That's why that's upset. So let's look at that. 109.
String is the obvious question.
Right. So okay. So reviewers should be a dictionary, a YAMLified dictionary. And so that's telling me that one of these, at least one of these, look at the files. So I've got that. That looks okay. That looks okay. Looks okay.
Yeah, one of them probably says reviewers : and just a name or comma separated names.
Is that true? Wait, no, I think I know what the problem is. So YAML is not meant for humans, I think.
No, YAML is meant for humans, but it is easy to make mistakes in YAML because it's whatever you said.
Yeah. So okay, here's the problem. So
yeah, look at that.
A dictionary in YAML needs to start with a dash. So this is a list because it's dash dash dash. This is a dictionary, I guess. So the solution is add a dash next to the first one, and I don't know if that is a problem with if they use the quick start to do that. It's possible that the quick start generated broken YAML.
Yeah. So more generally, I think what we need, what it probably needs is a couple exception catches that say, "Hey, I failed here, and this is the, this is what I was processing at the time, and here's the data that failed."
Yeah.
That's pretty easy to add a couple of catches.
Yeah.
Because I think the reality is people are going to put this data in occasionally wrong.
Yes. Viewers, organization, travel bits.
Yeah. Okay. But we've got the idea.
Okay.
Yeah. It's being interpreted as a string, and it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a either something that it's supposed to be an iterable. Well, it's not just iterable. What did it say? Items.
I mean, it needs to be a Python dictionary at some point.
Yeah.
Whatever the YAML definition of that is. So we'll do that.
I mean, just a bunch of key value pairs.
Yeah.
Is how that's going to be represented in YAML. So if you don't have a key value pair, it's going to be unhappy.
Cool. That's awesome. Anything else, Amir, from your side?
That's about it for the repo itself. Hopefully we're going to have some results of a new project real soon. So I'll have more to add, and we'll share that with the work group as soon as that's in there.
Terrific. Luigi, any update on security YAML?
Not enough, I'm sorry. In the last 2 weeks, I have had not enough time to work how I would like to work on the YAML. But yes, I have written to David that the next suggestion, probably for the next suggestion, I will ask his approval just to be aligned, because I think it is a good idea, and that is I will continue to update the document. Sorry.
Cool. Good. I guess the only other thing that I forgot to add this, but have you guys seen the UA Parser JS malware? This was the one that came out over the weekend. Backstory was the author of the NPM package. So the NPM package gets like 7 million downloads a week. He didn't have 2FA enabled. So his account got popped. The attacker published a new version, 3 new versions of UA Parser JS with crypto miner. There's strong suggestions that there was also a more nefarious payload, exfiltrating passwords and stuff like that. It's just the latest in the series of malicious NPM packages. It also fits the pattern of the GitHub project, which probably is protected by 2FA, is fine, but the NPM project that it's supposed to derive from is a completely separate identity and account and everything, and that one got popped.
That's actually a very common problem. Although it's not the focus right it's instant. In the previous group I was on, the digital identity folks, a working group may get renamed to the supply chain integrity working group.
Okay.
Because they because people are talking about projects that are a lot related but not quite the same. And there was a discussion about spending at least a little money on doing reproducible builds on some of these packages, specifically because it would catch this kind of nonsense.
So
if you check that the GitHub and the NPM library matched, that would this wouldn't happen. But there is no such checking, and so boom.
If I could give a shameless plug, because I think we're better at creating tools than we are at marketing tools, unfortunately. But this OSS, I think we talked about this just maybe 6 months ago or something. But OSS reproducible does do pretty good for NPM packages in particular. So you give it an NPM, you give it UA Parser JS, and it will go back and find the GitHub repo and then try to build it.
Right.
And if the bits don't match, it'll show you why they don't match.
Right. That's not those results aren't showing up in OpenSSF in metrics OpenSSF.org, are they?
It definitely is not. We are not running this one at. I mean, this needs to be run at scale. This is a expensive thing, but it's available. We could actually do that as part of Omega. That would be an interesting data point.
Yes, but I think more broadly, I mean, it would be good to run it more as Omega, but I think more broadly, and probably ought to talk about this in another forum. We ought to make that just a it's whenever you are thinking about updating, you can do a quick check and, oh look, it's reproducible or not.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. Like,
it's not.
I think maybe we're conflating like reproducibility, meaning if I build it 5 times, or if you build it and I build it, we both get the same bits, as different than like the package that you actually get is authentically derived from the source code that it purports to be from.
I'm not sure that I hear that. I think that's a different distinction without a difference, because where the heck are you getting those source packages? If you're not getting it from the correct source, then what does it matter that we can reproduce it? It's we agree that this is the correct source code, and we can agree that we can produce exactly the same package. Okay.
Yes.
If you can reproduce something, but it's not the authentic source, why do we care?
No. Sorry, it's actually saying, can I look backward? So, reproducibility is about. I'm sorry, I'm talking as I'm thinking. Reproducibility is about looking forward. Like, given a piece of source code, can I generate a binary that is from it? Given the binary that came from it, is this thing safe to use? Well, just knowing that X was reproducible doesn't mean that the bits that I have in my hand over here are the ones that came from this. And I guess you could do hash matching, and now you've got ledgers and things like that for it. I think it's an interesting space. We don't have enough time to go into it, but
yeah, we don't have time, which is unfortunate, because I think there's a distinction that I'm not. I guess in my mind, I want to. I think it's overcomplicated.
Yeah.
What if I am a receiver? Let me. I'm probably the wrong eye anyway. If I'm a potential receiver of a package, I want to verify that the package I'm about to install is reproducible. Either I will do it myself or somebody else has reproduced it. But basically, I want to have confidence that the binary data that I'm downloaded and thinking about using is reproducible from the source that it is purported to have been developed from.
Absolutely, yes.
And the only way to do that is by either yourself or someone else showing that in fact they can reproduce it.
Yes. Yes. So I think we're saying the same thing. A lot of reproducibility projects tend to start though with source and just say, hey, did I produce the same bits every time I compile? And like,
I call that, by the way, in the CI best practices badge, we actually have a different name for that. We call that repeatability. So it's possible to repeat the build.
Yeah.
But that, if one organization can repeatedly build it and they produce the same answer, that's repeatable. Reproducible means that someone else totally outside the project can reproduce the build. And I think repeatability is a useful step. So for example, repeatability is required for silver, and reproducible is required for gold, because repeatability is necessary to get reproducibility. But repeatability is a little easier because you don't have to figure out how to tell everybody else your tools. It's just run it twice. Did I get the same answer? Easy peasy to do. But from a security point of view, that is not really what you want. It's a step towards what you want, which is independent, verified reproducibility.
Yep.
Because now somebody else has checked.
Right. Cool. We're about out of time. Is there anything else that anybody would like to talk about? Awesome. Well, then, I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll meet again in 2 weeks. Oh, sorry. Last thing, if you guys haven't gotten the email, there's an OpenSSF town hall on the 8th.
Well, no, yes, but I think that's about to get changed later today.
Oh, good. I'm glad I didn't send it to.
It's okay. It has. I just got notification. The problem is NIST just announced a meeting at the same stinking time on supply chain, and
Why
so a
would
whole bunch
NIST
of people
consult with us on this?
noticing. Oh, I'm sorry.
Why wouldn't NIST consult with us when scheduling these things?
They should have. They should have. Actually, well, I think that's fair to say that it's okay for them not to do that, but it would have been better for them to give more warning.
Yeah.
So they didn't give a lot of warning, and I think a lot of people are going to want to do that. So we're probably going to reschedule that a week out.
Okay.
That hasn't been actually officially confirmed yet. So
Okay.
basically, watch your
Everybody
emails.
hold.
We may get that rescheduled because of conflicts that were not of our making.
Got it. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.